Hi guys, hope everyone's well and welcome back to Improvement Podcast. So in this video today, I'm going to talk about goal setting in 2022. So first of all, before that, hope everyone had a great Christmas and enjoyed spending time with the people around them. And if you are watching this on YouTube or seeing any reels on Instagram, hope you appreciate the improvement in the camera quality. It's probably a bit too good because you can really see my spots coming out, which is lovely. But apart from that, I'm just going to give a quick update on myself. So a good week or good last 2 weeks of training so far. Obviously, I've not popped a podcast out last week just due to being Christmas and just being absolutely rammed that week beforehand. But training's going well. Everything's going decent. My body weight's just gradually increasing and I'm getting stronger. Not much more to say, really. It's not always like building muscles, not always fun. There's not always things changing. You're not going to be drastically getting stronger all the time. It's just chipping away week by week, month by month, and slowly improving on your lifts. That's what builds tissue at the end of the day. But jumping into this episode, I'm going to talk about goal setting in 2022. And the reason being is people are quite a fan of New Year resolutions, or some people are. Some people like hate on them and take the piss out of them just because they're doing it at the new year. They're like, what's the point? Because it's the new year. But if people need that changing month, changing date to set a goal and they like having that changing year for goal setting, then I don't think anything's wrong with it. And I don't think it's something that people should belittle or put down at all, because at the end of the day, if you're trying to better yourself and it works for you, then I don't see why not. And the reason we want to be strategic when it comes to goal setting is it will maximize our progress, because if we're strategic about it, we know we can set effective goals. And the reason we want to set effective goals is because they'll help us reach our long-term goal and as a result fulfill us whatever we want to achieve. So with your goals, the first point I'm going to make is making them sustainable. So we know if something's not sustainable, you won't be able to stick to it long term. And as a result, you probably won't make much progress, because results come long term. You can only build so much muscle in a week. You can only lose so much fat in a week. You can only, with anything really, if you think about, let's say you went to college or uni or school or your driving lessons, anything that you basically value in life doesn't happen overnight, which is why you need to make it sustainable so that you can basically stick to it over time, because that's where it comes from. Because you could be 100% doing everything as optimal as possible with your training and nutrition for a week, but that's not going to breed as much results as like being semi-consistent for like a month. I think that's fair to say, and everyone would agree with that, hopefully. So make sure what you're doing is easy to stick to, because that's where the progress comes from. And it doesn't matter if it's not as effective as what you were trying to do before. For example, if you do, let's say if you're losing weight, you're losing a quarter of the amount, but you're making it sustainable. Yes, you'll lose the same amount in like 4 weeks as you would in a week. But if you can stick to that for a longer period, if it means you don't have a rebound and gain the weight back and binge because it's more sustainable and you're not as hungry, then that daily return of losing at a slower rate will add up, and over time you'll be much better off doing it and making sure that's sustainable, instead of just trying to like throw the kitchen sink in, do everything you can to lose weight, and it just backlashes because you can't stick to it. And another example is training. So if you can only train 3 days a week, that's better than 5 if 5 means falling off track, getting burnt out, and then not training for like a month. So it's all about what you can stick to. It's not about what's optimal on paper, because it's not optimal if you can't stick to it at the end of the day. So what is optimal is what you can stick to. So yeah, first point, making it sustainable. And you can do this with everything. For example, like you can just make basically all your goals. You can set a mini goal that works you towards that big goal, and do things to just make the process easier. like across the board. Like I give examples. This applies to in the gym, outside the gym, with your diet, with your like step goal, for example, with like it could be anything. It's not even relating to fat loss or building muscle, but just throughout life. I think you can find a scenario that applies to it. And next up is pick high returning goals. So what I mean by this is pick the goals that have the highest return. So in terms of fat loss, for example, if you are currently doing 1 hour cardio daily, but you have a very poor diet, you have, let's say, McDonald's every lunch, you have another takeaway for dinner, let's say a pizza for dinner, and you're already doing an hour cardio daily, then most likely increasing your cardio is going to have little return, and it's going to be hard and very hard to stick to. Whereas what would have a high return is making nutritional changes. So pick out what's going to have the highest return, basically. So in that scenario, it would obviously be your nutrition, because it's in a really bad spot. This could apply for if you're already trying to like watch what you're eating, looking after your diet, but you're not training at all. It's going to be hard if you're just doing the diet side of things. So pick what is the most sensible option at the time. And again, this means you don't have to throw the kitchen sink, and you can just like do one improvement at a time. And then when you stop basically making progress, or if you find, right, this is easy, I can do something else and maintain it, then do so. But first of all, don't just throw the kitchen sink in and do one thing that's like really difficult. Choose what will have the highest return. What this basically means as well is, let's say you're trying to lose weight. It's better to try and sort your nutrition out if you want to lose body fat than spending a ton of money on fat loss supplements. I spend a lot of it on like fat burners and trying to like have hot baths, like weird things like that, or maybe trying to have magical superfood that helps you lose weight as well. Why not focus on a calorie deficit, because that will have the highest return and it won't be as inconvenient as doing all those wee things that probably won't have much effect. So yeah, number 2, just focusing on high returning goals. And again, it will just mean you won't waste your time or energy on basically wee goals that will not contribute towards your big goal. And if you don't see progress, if you are committing a lot to goals that won't have a great return, then you will become demotivated. You will become quite gutted, because you're putting a lot of effort in, you're not seeing return. And that's basically a recipe for disaster, because if you're not seeing return of your efforts, then why would you want to keep up? You probably won't. Next up is setting mini goals. So I'm a massive fan of mini goals, and that I was just basically touching on it earlier. But let's say your goal is to lose 20 kilos. Set small goals to get you there, because if you're at the start of your fat loss journey and you're looking 20 kilos ahead, that's a very far place to look. Whereas if you think, what can I do to lose the first pound? Then you could think, right, I'll walk more and I'll have small fries instead of large. That's sustainable, which we know, as I just went over, you'll be able to stick to it. And then if you set that mini goal, literally just something really small and easy, once you hit that, you will become motivated. You will be happy with yourself, because you're like, oh, I can do it. I've done that. And then you'll just keep the ball rolling. You can set bigger and bigger goals gradually over time. Again, it will mean you can stick to it, which is key. And it will keep you motivated if you're hitting those small goals. And the reason we also want one is, like I said, the journey, or like losing 20 kilos of body fat or gaining muscle, can be something that takes a really long time for some people. So let's say in the gym, obviously, like building muscle naturally, it doesn't happen overnight. Yes, you can gain it pretty fast as a beginner, but you don't see it weekly anyway, like in a gaining phase. If you've like been training consistently for a while, you'll not see it like weekly. And as a result, it can become, you can get a lack of like a goal. You don't really have anything that you're working to short term. So in this position, I like to put many goals in, like training performance goals. So like for now, like I know what I'm trying to hit in this gaining phase. I want to hit a 80 kilo high incline Smith press. I'm wanting to get 5 plates on the chest press. I'm wanting to hack squat 180 kilos. I'm wanting to leg press like 325. I've got all these goals that I'm working towards. As a result, you'll have a sense of urgency. So you'll think, all right, need to sleep well. Oh, need to eat well. And you'll have reason behind those big goals. And yeah, I just think it helps massively, because the big goals can seem so far away, and sometimes you can be complacent or just basically not be doing much with yourself if you don't have a sense of urgency and set small goals. So I'm a big fan of that. And again, if you want to build muscle, set with training performance. Same if you want to lose body fat, actually, because we know the more muscle we have, the better, the more toned we'll look. And as well as that, we will basically burn more calories at rest for the most part. And next up, after setting mini goals, is highlighting your wins. So I touched on this again in setting mini goals, basically, but you get a sense of, or you get dopamine released when you hit your goals, and you get that sense of accomplishment. So that's basically the pleasure hormone, dopamine. And reason we want this is when we pick up our phone, when we like get likes, that's what releases dopamine. And then what do? We want to post more, we want to check our phone more, and we become addicted to it. So the same can kind of happen when it comes to hitting your goals. Set wee mini goals, hit them, highlight them, and then you just crave hitting more and more goals. And then that's a recipe for success. And something I do every day, if you're watching this on video, you'll see is I'll write out what I'm doing for the day. I'll write out my goals and what I want to achieve. And then from there, when I tick my goals off, you'll see I cross them out. And from this, again, I'll get a sense of accomplishment. I'll be in a good mood. I'll be motivated, and it'll make the process more enjoyable, which we know will make things easier to stick to. So again, I recommend just writing a wee checklist of what you're trying to achieve, even if like it doesn't have to be gym related. Even if like you're just wanting to like tidy your room, prepare your food for tomorrow, have a bath, have time for yourself, write them down, tick it. You'll remember them. You'll have less stress because you're not having all those thoughts going through your head of things to remember. And again, you'll be in a better place, and you'll just do more with your days. So I'm a massive fan of that. So make sure you highlight your wins, even the small wins. Like if you don't usually manage to hit your step goal and you hit a step goal, pat yourself on the back, think I've done that. And again, your mood will be better. You'll feel fulfilled, and you'll be more likely to do it in the future. So setting the right goals is absolutely pivotal, because if you set the wrong goal, like I want to lose 20 kilos, and you don't do anything with that, then you'll probably not lose those 20 kilos, and you'll probably feel quite rubbish about it. You will just reinforce that behavior that you can't hit your goals, that you can't do things, which will obviously not do much good for you mentally, for your confidence, which we don't want. So yeah, just quick recap. When it comes to goal setting, make it sustainable, pick high returning goals, set mini goals, and highlight your wins. And lastly, I just want to touch on something else that just sprung to my mind. Make sure your goals are specific to you. So like if someone else has got a goal, like if that's not valuable to yourself, then why is that your goal? You don't need to have a certain goal because someone else has it. So if you don't get fulfilled by going to the gym, it's not valuable for you, then that shouldn't be a goal of yours. Like make it a sport or doing something else that gives you value, like cycling. Maybe you love like being out in nature, seeing things like that, puts you in a good mood. You get a sense of accomplishment for it. Can't get my words out. Then make that your goal to do consistently. So don't just copy someone else's goals, make them specific to what you value in life and what will give you a sense of accomplishment. And then you will be more likely to hit them, and they will be more value to you once you hit them. So I hope you found this episode valuable. Going into 2022, hope everyone's had an amazing year. I believe this will be the last podcast of 2021. So I'll see you in the new year. Thank you very much for listening if you made it to the end. And if you are interested in losing body fat, then feel free to sign up for my fat loss challenge. It's a stone in 60 challenge. It'll basically help people lose weight, learn to keep it off, and basically learn why they gain it back and stop you from gaining it back in the future. And also please leave me a rating and review. You can now do it on Spotify, so that would be amazing. Any support that people have shown me this year, I appreciate massively, because you help drive the podcast forward, get it seen by other people. Even if it's one like on Instagram, whatever you've done, thanks so much. I can't thank you enough, really, because without people tuning into this and listening to this, then it would not be growing at all. So yeah, hope everyone has an amazing new year, enjoys yourself, and thank you for listening.